A few weeks ago, the whole world was taken by surprise after US President Donald Trump announced steep tariffs that affect nearly all goods imported into the US. Between January and April of this year, the average US tariff rate rose from 2.5% to an estimated 27%, which is the highest level in over a century. What's interesting is that the American tech sector seems to be deeply affected by these tariffs, especially tech giants like Apple. So these tariffs don't seem like good news at this stage. In this video, we're going to explain the basis of those tariffs, how they affect a company like Apple, what they mean for the competition, and what the future may look like. At the start of April, Donald Trump introduced a policy of reciprocal tariffs on other countries. These tariffs carried a minimum rate of 10% across the board, applying to all nations. However, the rates were significantly higher for many of the United States' most important trading partners, most notably China. In China's case, some tariffs were imposed at rates as high as 145%. But before we dive further into the specifics, it's important to quickly explain, what exactly is a tariff? A tariff is essentially a tax that is imposed at the border by one country on goods imported from a foreign country. The primary purpose of tariffs is usually to protect local businesses and industries from foreign competition by making imported goods more expensive. Now, in response to the US's tariff actions, China swiftly retaliated. It imposed its own set of tariffs, with rates climbing as high as 125% on certain American goods. So it's clear that neither side is backing down or taking a light approach to this trade war. But now that we know what happened, how are tech companies like Apple in the conversation? How is this relevant to them? Initially, there were major concerns for Apple products, notably iPhones, because tariffs could result in significant price increases, up to more than 40%. For example, the iPhone 16 Pro Max, currently priced up to $1,600, would have seen its price jump to around $2,300 as a result of the tariffs. This prospect led to a hefty 9.3% drop in Apple's stock price. A price increase of that scale would have made the value proposition much shakier, especially since Apple didn't seem to do as good of a job at implementing its Apple Intelligence features and marketing them effectively. This included not meeting their expectations when it came to users engaging with Apple Intelligence. However, just a few days later, Trump announced that phones, computers, and chips would be exempted from the new tariffs. This was good news for Apple, as it directly applied to them, as well as to other US tech giants including HP and Dell. After this announcement, Apple shares rose more than 2%, and the company regained its $3 trillion market cap. But it doesn't end there. As a result of this ongoing trade war, Apple is reportedly planning to move away from China and instead source all US-bound iPhones from India. This move builds on Apple's broader strategy to diversify its supply chain, with a goal to source from India the entirety of more than 60 million iPhones sold annually in the US by the end of 2026. In the future, we could end up seeing a reflection of Apple's relationship with Foxconn, but with India-based manufacturers like Tata Electronics stepping into a more prominent role. All of this likely stems from Apple's growing concerns about the long-standing trade war between the US and China. Apple doesn't want these tensions to compromise its position as a major player in the tech industry. Now, what does all of this mean for the competition? Essentially, this is good news for rivals. It's an opportunity for them to take advantage of the slightly unstable position that Apple may find itself in. Before phones, computers, and chips were excluded from the new tariffs, there was a real possibility that rivals like Samsung might have gained an advantage over Apple. That's because the tariffs placed on South Korea were much lower than those placed on China, at around 25%, and so this would have likely translated into much lower prices for Samsung phones compared to iPhones. But even with the exemption, the situation is still not ideal for Apple. If you consider Apple's plan to move manufacturing to India, this isn't exactly an easy task, and it can't simply be done overnight. It's a complex and time-consuming process, and so it's definitely going to be logistically demanding. This transition will likely create an area of temporary weakness that competitors can potentially exploit. So what does the future hold for the main players in the technology space? Looking ahead, the economic future remains uncertain, especially if the trade war between the United States and China becomes even more intense. It's definitely a volatile situation, but the good news is that as customers, we probably won't see significant price increases, at least for now. With that being said, the rest of this year and potentially either part or all of next year might not be an outstanding period for Apple. Competitors will definitely be looking to take advantage of the current circumstances and the overall uncertainty surrounding Apple at this stage. Because of this, it'll be crucial for Apple to finalize its transition to India-based manufacturing as soon as possible in order to quickly get back on track. Of course, that's easier said than done. How smoothly that transition goes will largely depend on the number and complexity of the issues that will need to be addressed along the way. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like, share and subscribe. And feel free to let me know in the comments if there is anything tech you're interested in and want me to make a video about. In the next video, we're going to explore the current state of RAM usage in web browsers. Make sure to tune in for that because it's going to be very interesting. Also, please consider supporting me by donating to my channel through buymeacoffee.com. I would really appreciate any support as I continue to bring fun and interesting content like this, only if you can, of course. Link down below. This was the Wizard of Tech, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.